The Navigating Disability podcast often discusses topics including disability, injury, mental health, and mentions of sensitive issues such as trauma and suicide. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care while listening. Welcome to Navigating Disability. Today we're joined by an incredible guest, Chris Davis, who became paralysed at age 5 due to a likely polio-type virus. After a 25-year career in Queensland Health, including mental health, Chris discovered archery in 2019. He quickly made history as the first Australian para-archer to win gold at the World Championships in 2023. Now recovered from a major shoulder injury, he's back in training and aiming for the 2025 World Championships in Korea. Join us as we talk resilience, sport, and the power of purpose. Welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, mate.
Today, I want to talk about your journey, and that starts from obviously before you were 5 to that catastrophic event to afterwards. Can you tell me, do you have any memories of your childhood before the age of 5 when this occurred?
Yeah, I got a couple of glimpses, I guess you'd call it, of when I was still upright, and things like going roller skating, and I remember the wheel coming off one of my roller skates. And then I remember the main one that I remember obviously was in the hospital when the paralysis was coming on. I can remember standing up in bed and my legs shaking, and then falling down, and we all thought it was funny because it looked funny when my knees were going like this, and next thing I drop onto the bed, try and stand up again, and it happens again. But we didn't really, and obviously we didn't realize at the time that that was a bad sign. Yeah, little glimpses like that, but now it's 48 years down the track, and it's like looking at another little boy. It's you sort of it's you, but yeah, you're sort of outside looking in now. Yeah.
How did your life change at 5? How did that affect you?
It's weird. I think I consider myself pretty lucky that it happened when I was that age. Because you're not really developing memories and things like that around that time unless it's a major issue. So my life probably, I would say, didn't change. I just managed. I think my parents' lives changed dramatically. I couldn't imagine what it would be like for them or what it was like for them. And I think I'd have a very different story and maybe be quite a different person if my disability came on when I was 15 or 25 or 30, and you'd had a life of being able to do everything with both legs and both hands. Because I'm left with just the use of my right arm. And yeah, so really I grew up only knowing what to do with one arm, tie my shoelaces, get dressed, shower, all those sorts of things. So I can't say it's probably changed. It's just different from what I call uprights, able bods.
I love that, uprights. You don't think about it, but it's so true.
Yeah. I won't go through all our nicknames that we've got, but yeah, I think if you had to pick a time, you want it to be early. I really feel for people who have an accident or whatever, and it's much later in life, then that's a hell of a lot more to overcome.
Can you tell me with when it did happen and you went through school, were you treated differently because you were in a wheelchair? Were you at a mainstream school?
Yeah, I went to mainstream school in a state primary school, Ormiston, where I grew up. And then from there, I went to Villanova College, where I met my mates there, and how we got to know you, Kate.
Correct, yes.
And then university. So it was all mainstream school. Was I treated differently? I guess, in a logistics sense, yes. So the school had to work out how to accommodate for their first time a student in a wheelchair in primary school. Villa was different. They'd already had a couple of people through with disabilities, but the primary school definitely had to work out what do they need to do. It was good. I could never be sent to the principal's office because it was up a flight of stairs. But they did end up. I spent 5 of my 7 years in primary school in the same classroom. So they had a ramp built onto a demountable, and that was just my classroom for the rest of the time. My first year, in grade 1, I remember day 1, I had this Mr. Price, no, what was his name? Mr. Davies. Interestingly enough, similar last name. He used to have to carry me upstairs because our classroom in grade 1 was upstairs until they moved it. And he would carry me upstairs and back down for lunch and home again because I had an electric wheelchair at the time. But really, they're not things I really even go back to.
And talking about being carried, I actually do have a story, and I don't know if you remember it, but there was a time you do. There was a time when we were together, and one of our close friends was because I was up from Melbourne, so they were taking. I can't remember who it was. I just remember the three of us. I don't know if there was anyone else there.
Reese.
Yeah, Reese, but I don't know if there was anyone else there.
There was another person.
Yeah, and I can't remember.
I don't know if it was a mate of yours or
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Reese decided that we would go to Cedar Creek Falls, which was amazing, but I didn't understand or appreciate what that actually meant for you. Now, you in a wheelchair on rocky paths down a hill to the pools. We got you down there. That was no problem. But then we had to get you back.
Yes.
And I can remember Reese pushing that wheelchair with sweat, it was really everything. His calves were absolutely bulging because he was using that much energy. And I think, if I'm correct, he ended up carrying you and I pushed the wheelchair.
I don't know if I can't remember that bit. I know that it was a long way up, and yeah, there was you on the front of the chair pushing from the front, Reese at the back, busting.
He was.
Yeah, the guy is one of the most amazing people because he never told me that we were going to Cedar Creek Falls. And when I said we're going to go to Cedar Creek, sorry, but I said, well, it's not accessible. I won't be able to get there. He goes, no, it is. There's an accessible part because he knew. And I said to him afterwards, I said, yeah, you bullshitted me because it's not accessible. He says, yeah, well, if I told you it wasn't accessible, you wouldn't have gone, and then you wouldn't have experienced it. That's the type of guy Reese is. Yeah, it's just magic, man. But it was an incredible experience, and the effort you put in. You didn't even know me from a bar of soap at that stage, really. We'd only met maybe a couple of times, and you yourself were sweating and working hard trying to get me up these.
And isn't that funny? Because I don't remember that. I remember it was all Reese.
But no, you were on the front pushing, yeah.
But what I remember from that, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, is how inaccessible places actually are for people like you.
Yeah.
And it makes me realise how lucky you are, and it's because of who you are, but to have people like Reese in your corner doing that. Have you found that throughout your life? Like, has that been, would you have, if Reese had have said to you, I'm taking you to Cedar Creek Falls and we're going down the hill, would you have gone? No.
If I'd known what it was like to access the pools, no, I would have said no way. Not because I don't trust Reese.
No.
Because I wouldn't want to put somebody through that level of exertion to get me to see a waterfall. That said, I still picture that like it was yesterday, that waterfall, because it's the only time I've ever sat at a pool at the bottom of a waterfall and been able to see it from the bottom. Normally you've got the outlook up the top and you have to go to there and look down and go, oh, that's pretty. But to be in that position, I've never experienced that before. and probably I can't say I have since. Um, so yeah, along through my life, I've met people that have gone above and beyond. Um, but yeah, Reese is like a brother to me. So yeah, he's a very special man. But I have met people along the way who have gone a little bit above and beyond to accommodate the things that I can't do.
Looking back and having done that experience, looking back, if you knew what you know now, does that make you go and do things that you probably thought you couldn't do?
No, I've always been a bit conservative. Look, as I've got a bit older, I've probably gone down that road and gone, oh, we'll see what happens. Um, but I'm still a bit measured around what I do, whether it's going to be, it's a dignity thing. So, you don't want to go into a situation where next thing you bum up on the ground, or anything like that. So and it's just me. Other people, different story. Like this is just my feeling around what I do about myself or with myself. So I'm careful and measured around the things that I do attempt. I might push the envelope a little bit sometimes, but generally, no, still a bit cautious. Yeah. Only because of dignity. I don't, I've fallen out of the chair. I know what it's like. And it's not, anybody in a wheelchair knows that it's not a matter of if, but when you go out, bum up. So it's just a matter of trying to counter that as best you can. For me, other people, they want to go, they do some mental things. There's a guy over in the States who does the BMX type stuff on his wheelchair, and yeah, all credit to him. But yeah, not for me.
Chris, you've had such a great career from what I've read, and that would have come with its own challenges. Was there ever a point in time where you felt stuck? And what did you do to overcome it?
You mean stuck in relation to the disability or the work?
Stuck because of your disability. So just you felt like you were held back. Was there any a point in your life where you felt,
Yeah.
frustrated, I guess, about your disability and feeling like you can't do something?
Yeah. I've I have to think about whether I can answer this. The Queensland Health. We're working in Queensland Health. My first jobs were emergency departments, intensive care unit, mortuary, and dealing with trauma, frontline stuff. I did that for a long time and felt as though I couldn't do much more of that. I'd given all that I had to trauma. And I thought mental health was something I wanted to go into. This is a very long way of answering the question.
No, please, I'd love to hear it.
So I went and had a chat with some mental health people, clinicians at a community centre, and basically said I wanted to get into it. I want to do assessments, that sort of stuff. And their first response was, well, you won't be able to because you're in a wheelchair. You won't be able to do the assessments. You won't be able to go anywhere to see people, etc. And I thought, right, this is where my stubbornness comes out again. And I thought, screw you. I'm going to go and talk to somebody else about it. So I approached another team leader, and this guy was much better. So it didn't happen straight away. I'm not going to say I sulked, but I was a bit pissed off for a while about it.
Well, look, you've got someone putting limitations on you and they don't know you.
That's right.
And what you can do. So that in itself is, would put anyone on the back foot.
And for any
clinician, the pun. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. And for any clinician that's working in a role like that, thinking outside the box is actually part of your job. So, and that's when I went and spoke with a team leader elsewhere at another clinic, another community centre, and he just all of a sudden just went, "Yep, I know what we can do. We'll make you our permanent duty intake officer. So anybody who walks into the clinic, you assess them, You come up with the plan, run it by the psychiatrist, and then refer it on to where it needs to be. So in the matter of a conversation where he saw that I wasn't stupid, I guess. Some people might argue that. But he came up with an idea of what I can do using what I could do. And then while I was there, we worked out, there are places that I can go and see people at home. And he got me doing, or encouraged me to go and do what used to be called the justice examination order. So it was somebody who in the community who was very unwell that needed an assessment, but they wouldn't agree to it. So it was an involuntary type assessment. And you usually do that in the accompaniment of police. They can get a fiery situation, but still, it was like, let's go do that. And I've done a number of those in my time. And eventually went on to work in acute care teams for home visits and clinics and hospital assessments, etc. Again, then down the track, working in the acute setting for a while, there was a change, as government tends to do, a change in overarching coordination of the system. And a team leader at the time decided that even though I'd been doing acute care work for probably about 4 years at that time, which was going out doing hospital assessments and things like that, that I wasn't mobile enough to be in an acute care team, and then put me back into a triage service, which was a telephone call center for crisis stuff and over the phone intake work. And that's where I spent then the next probably 10 years, I guess, 9 years doing that sort of stuff.
What did that feel like for you, being taken out of where you wanted to be and put into...
and the fact that you were doing it capably, like you were doing the job. Yeah.
So firstly, I've never been one to sort of go down the road of, oh, I'm going to take you to court, do anything like that. I don't do that. And the other part of it was that they never approached me, or the person that made this decision never told me directly. They just said it was a shift of role. So it was only told to me secondhand, but they were in the meeting that was held to make that decision. How it made me felt was, I'll try and keep my language to a minimum, but I was pissed off. I was really pissed off because I was doing the job, and all my feedback I got from consultant psychiatrists and other clinicians and patients and other workers was I did my job well.
So it actually wasn't about you doing the job.
No.
It was about your physical ability.
Yeah, pure mobility issue, or what that person thought was a mobility issue. Yet I was the one who always went over to the other hospitals that we covered to do assessments when those hospitals didn't have psychiatric services. So they would then call on our service to go and do an assessment in their ED and come up with a plan and sort a treatment protocol for them. And that would be me jumping in a car, going over there, getting out, going into their emergency department, doing their assessments. And I'd do that for about 3 different hospitals. I'd also go and do home visits and see people in their homes if they were accessible. So
how did you deal with this, what I would call a demotion?
Probably not. I probably wouldn't say a demotion. It was definitely a very significant change of role, and I feel it was an underutilization of the skills at the time. But anyway, how did I feel? How did I deal with it? I guess I just compartmentalized. I knew that you can't beat big organizations like that. Well, I felt, and I didn't have the energy either to try and fight them, because they turn around and just say, well, no, we didn't do that. This was a role, this was a operational decision, and that's that. So there is no way of fighting it if you don't have very clear evidence. So it was a matter of just suck it up, put it in a box in the back of your head and move on, do your job as best you can in the role that you're doing. Look after the people that are vulnerable and screw the organisation.
So through all of that, who's been your greatest support?
My
So
wife.
who's been there? Your wife?
Yeah. So I met Donna through when I was working in mental health. She was the office manager at the time. Not a patient. Yeah, no, I met her at work, and that was 15 odd years ago now. We've been married 13.
Now, Donna is able-bodied, is that right?
Yeah. Ironically, she's an ultra marathon runner.
Oh,
So not just the ultra trails or whatever. What do they call it?
So a sporty family.
Well, she started it. Yeah.
A lot of disabled people or non-disabled people have perceptions about dating and wheelchair users and able-bodied people. And how did that work for you?
I was always so self-esteem is always a big part of this stuff. And just in a general social setting, I'm okay, I'm comfortable. When it comes to dating, my first thought is, how's the other person going to manage or feel about this and what have you? So nearly all of the people that I've ever dated have been people that I've got to know as mates first or friends or whatever, and then it's grown on to something else. But I'm always mindful that, and I don't know why, I'm always mindful that some people might be uncomfortable with the fact that you're in a chair and what that entails. You're forever lifting a chair in and out the car for someone if you go out with them. You can't go to certain places. I say that I can't dance and I don't do wheelchair dancing, and that's just how it is. Nobody's going to make that change. But I know there are people that can dance and pretty magic stuff what I've seen on YouTube and whatever.
So you didn't marry when you got married? You didn't marry. Sorry, you didn't dance at your wedding?
No, mate, no.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah. No, we had an outside wedding. It was in a park, and it was a real subtle but fun affair. It was really nice. Yeah.
And what I love about that is Donna obviously sees you for who you are.
Yeah.
She doesn't see the chair.
Yeah.
How does it change your day-to-day life?
Well, again, I think it doesn't. I don't know any different, I guess. I know that with Don's, and I think it comes back. It sort of really highlighted it again to me down the track when I had the shoulder injury. So for people that don't know, I had a shoulder reconstruction about nearly a year ago after tearing my supraspinatus. So I had to have that all reattached and then a few other bits and pieces fixed up while I was in there.
Is that due to archery?
Age.
The joys of aging.
Yeah. Age, it's the only limb that works, so it gets a lot of work. So it's my right arm, right shoulder is my legs and arms, so to speak. So it gets a bit of extra work on top of what it's supposed to do just normally, and then the archery as well. Yeah, it would have contributed for sure. But anyway, I had that done, and I guess to answer the question around how does it change my life, Don's just looked after me. It was me having to suck up some of that dignity. But after the surgery, I wasn't to use my arm for 6 weeks. So it gave me a very brief glimpse into the life of a quad.
But you've got no arms, no legs, nothing.
And it's like, I don't know how they do it. Now, people look at me and say, you've only got one arm. I don't know how you do it. Try it with no arms and no legs at work. That's shit. So luckily I was only like that for 6 weeks, and I can't say that I completely understand what it would be like for them, but I got a glimpse, and it's hard work. And the dignity side of things, you just have to let go. We ended up having to get a hospital bed at home, so I didn't get any pressure sores because I couldn't really adjust myself properly on the bed. It was very difficult to roll over, those sorts of things. But Dom's was there. She did all that stuff. We got a hoist in. So she would have to, for showers and things like that, put me in the hoist, lift me up, drag me down to the shower, throw me in the shower and all that sort of stuff so I could get clean. And, there's bits hanging out everywhere when you're in one of those hoists getting in the shower. So,
and it really is a matter of she loves you. It doesn't matter. Because we would do the same thing if Adam was in a hospital. Exactly. You would just do it.
But it just sort of reinforces, is that she would do anything just like I would for her if it was role reverse. I guess that's a nice thing to find in your life.
I think we can all thank God that it was only 6 weeks, because I can imagine you by the end of that 6 weeks.
I was not a happy camper.
No, I can see that. Have you ever felt like giving up, Chris? Like it's all too hard?
Absolutely. I remember not long after I was paralysed, I was and I was, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years old, I think it was. We'd had a set of calipers made so that I could stand in a vertical position for a while, but I was also able to shuffle walk a little bit. And I think it was one of those times because it was quite painful. So I never lost feeling it throughout my body when I became paralysed. It's just the muscles don't work, so the motor nerves aren't working. But I've got full sensation.
Even today?
Yeah. Yep. And so getting into calipers and standing vertical, especially when you've been sitting for a long time, is actually a little bit painful because all the blood rushes down to your feet, where it normally doesn't go that quickly. And so you get really sore legs and feet. It's like pins and needles, but to the nth degree. All your organs shift. So all my organs are sitting a bit higher. When I stand up or when I get straight and vertical, you can actually feel your internals drop a little bit, which was a bit of a surprise for me. But I can remember being in the calipers, wandering about, and they broke for the umpteenth time. I went down and I just said to Mum, probably the first time I really lost it, emotionally lost it. I just said, I wish I was never born and that sort of stuff. Because it does get a little bit too hard. But emotions are normal. Frustration is normal experience. It's okay to get frustrated. It's okay to think, I just wish I wasn't here now. It's what you do with the thoughts, and it's what you do in addressing that or trying to work a way through it. So you can't stop ever having thoughts of this sucks, because it does. Life would be so much easier if I could walk up a flight of stairs, or even if I had a left arm that worked. It'd be so much easier. But it is what it is. Probably one of my favorite sayings is, it is what it is. And you just got to work a way through it. You got a choice. You can curl up in a ball in a corner and exist until you don't, or you can actually go, well, I want to try something. I want to do something. I want to experience what this thing life is, and might as well get out there and not be,
it really is mindset.
It is, yeah, stubbornness, mindset. Yeah.
And that actually shows why I think you were led into mental health, because you understand, you've been there, you've done that.
Yeah, I think it's why I went into social work in general, because social work requires empathy. for a good social worker to do their job properly, and this is what I've told my students in the past, you have to have empathy. You have to be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Whether those shoes work or not is another point. But but yeah, you need to be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I think if with life experiences, you can then do that a little bit easier at times. That said, you can never completely understand the other person, and you need to recognize that as well. But you can, frustrations and turmoil is transferable between people. Understanding, accepting that, and working with it is what you do in that role of social work. And I think that sort of fit well with what I like to do for people, especially vulnerable people.
How did you go at uni in terms of accessibility?
It wasn't too bad. There are a couple of classes that were hard to get to, or a little bit. I remember one. It was a health-based subject, and it was in one of the older lecture theatres at UQ. It was that old that they still wheelchair, or to get myself to that level of the building, required using the very olden wooden elevator that they used to do for like libraries, taking books up and downstairs.
Oh.
And I was in this creaky old thing that I swear was run with ropes, not cables. And it would rock as you go up. It was almost like out of a horror movie type thing. It was tiny. I could only just fit my wheelchair and somebody else in there. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was pretty cool. But most of the other places, each year when they're allocating rooms, they're aware that they will have people with different levels of ability and accessibility. So they tend to organise that.
Because one thing we hear from a lot of people we speak to is it's actually not the disability that disables them, it's the environment and the accessibility.
Yeah. And sometimes the environment you can't change.
Yeah.
Where the faculty was held when I was at UQ, and this is 107 years ago, it was at the bottom of a very steep hill. So to get up to the refect or some of the other areas, I had to push myself up this bloody great hill. Stop halfway, have a heart attack, and then keep going. But there's nothing anybody can do about that. That's a hill. That's the way the ground is. Yeah. But buildings can be made accessible.
Yeah.
And that's something that Australia is doing better, but it is very slow at the pickup. And I didn't realise that till I actually went to the UK many years ago. And I saw how their Disability Discrimination Act has made people over there much more aware of how to help people without question, without huffing and puffing. Example was was in the UK, was going to a shopping centre, and over there the buildings are old. Everybody, really old buildings. So they've all got a step. Well, not all of them, but most of them have got some sort of step. I was pushing towards a particular shop, and obviously the shop owner saw me coming, thought I wanted to go in. Next thing, she's come running out and put a ramp down, held the door open so I could get in if I wanted to. And I said, "Oh, look, I'm really sorry, but I wasn't coming into your shop." "That's okay. Fix it up, takes it back in." There was no huffing and puffing where that. I can't even put a time frame on it, but it's probably not that distant past that wouldn't happen here.
No.
And I think in some places, certainly when you start going a bit more rural, it may not happen either. Or if you go high end in the city, they don't.
It very much sounds like it's just normal in the UK.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just not normal here.
Yeah. It was interesting because over there I was that particular trip, I took mum back because she's English, and I always promised her when I was a little fella that I'd take her back to England one day. So I took her back to England for that trip. And while I was posting some stuff home, and I was in the post office lined up, and mum knows not to offer help. I'll ask for it if I need help with something, and I'm trying to wrap this post box thing. Trying to wrap it with some tape, and it looked like apparently to this guy anyway, it looked like I was struggling, and I was putting the tape on, and next thing, this arm just comes over from behind me, sticks his finger on the tape,
Oh,
just wrap it. And I was like, I turned around, and he was just talking to his girlfriend, but didn't worry about. It wasn't sort of out of the norm.
It wasn't I'm doing this to help you and I'm a good person and everything else. It was
It was
just,
just, yeah, I can see his
yeah.
stick my finger on it, wrapped it up. Thanks, mate. Oh, yeah, no worries. And they kept talking. Now, this guy, if you saw him in the street, you'd probably cross the street because he looked really bloody dodgy. But over there, that's what they do.
Yeah.
We were struggling to get on the train from the airport. Mum had the 2 suitcases, and one of them got stuck. This guy just walked on, grabbed the suitcase, put it down where we were sitting, and kept going. No expectation of a thanks or everything. Just did it.
and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's the way it should be for anybody, whether you've got a disability or not. If
Yeah.
we started looking after each other a little bit better,
Yeah.
we might not have so many problems.
A little bit of kindness goes a long way.
Yeah, a little bit of awareness of your surroundings and a little bit of thoughtfulness. That's all it takes. It doesn't take much effort to do that, but
So,
awareness.
looking ahead, Chris,
Yeah.
what are your hopes for the future?
To this time get to the Paralympics.
You were so close.
Oh God, that was the worst. And look, that's end of the day, all I'm doing is flinging sticks. I'm not doing anything super important. Some people might find it important, but yeah, it's a game. I'm flinging sticks. I'm not curing cancer. I'm not saving lives. But at the moment, that's my focus, is to get to LA Games. Bit short-term goal is to win over in Rome, or at least podium in Rome, and then fine-tune the game so that when I get to Korea, I win that, and hopefully will be. I really would like to be able to do a back-to-back World Championship win. But we'll see how we go. Everybody can have a bad day. Everybody can have a good day.
Yeah.
So we'll just see what it's good.
How did you get into archery?
That was Donna's fault. Because she's
Blame the wife.
because she's a runner, and she's been running for a long time, and exceptional. She's got such dedication to training, it's ridiculous. That I saw her doing all this stuff, and prior to getting into archery, I was just 3D printing at home or playing games on the computer and then working, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't exciting me, I guess. I've got a bit of a competitive nature, so I needed something that I could sink my teeth into, but also do well. And I looked at a few different options. I don't like guns, so I didn't want to go down the pistol road, which is an obvious one. You got one arm that works, you put a pistol in your hand. I don't like guns. We don't need them. Archery was physical, and I found after doing a bit of research, there was a guy in the States who shoots, and he's got no arms. He shoots with his feet. I thought, if he can do it, then I've got to be able to do it. So I got in touch with the club, and yeah, archery became a passion because of its physicality, which it doesn't look like it when you watch it on TV, but it's tiring. It's hard work pulling those things.
Be a lot of focus, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's the other part now. Once you get on top of the physicality of it a little bit, it's a mental game, and I would say now at this stage, it's 70% mental archery, if not probably more. You've got to be focused. It's only a 10-second or 12 and a half seconds is my shot process at the quickest. But it's like you've got to be focused for that period of time. Slight deviation in the thought process or a slight movement, millimeters mean points down the other end. And I love that because you can never be perfect. But you strive for it. And every once in a while, you shoot a really nice shot where it felt like everything went right and the arrow landed where you wanted it to. And that was, that's the magic moment that we all strive for at archery.
When you travel for sport, for archery, what does that entail?
A lot of hard work for the uprights.
So you do need uprights with you?
Yeah.
How many?
It depends on the size of the squad. So I'm trying to think of the numbers that we took to the first international. There was, I think there's about 7 of us that went, 7 paras or athletes. And I think there was about 5 staff, which was a very well-staffed trip. Still very difficult for people because they're carrying 2 lots of not only our luggage, but also our bow cases, which are, 20, 25 kilos worth of equipment. So it's hard work on the coaches, on the support staff, physios, S&C, strength and conditioning coaches. Anybody that comes with us, hard work for them. Everybody chips in and does their bit, even if it's not their role, which is awesome. Doesn't happen in other areas, I'm led to believe. When we travel now, we probably go, they try and aim for a 1 to 2 or just a bit more staff ratio. So 1 staff per 2 athlete. But it all comes back to the dollars. What can Archery Australia afford? And archery, it's not a hugely popular sport. It's not a well-known sport. Most people have heard of archery, but they don't watch it. There's not a lot of money in it, especially in Australia, because we're so far away from everything. A lot more money in Europe or America with archery. So they've got to manage the budget as best they can, because it does cost a little bit to send us all over there.
And do you take your own support staff, or do you go with who's supplied?
Archery Australia, there's been a change. The reason I'm balked there is because there's been a recent change. In the past, I could have taken my own or requested a support person to come with. I didn't because I was a bit too stubborn and wanted to be a bit more independent, even though my category says that I'm entitled to a support person. I'm in the category of the most disabled, for the want of a better term. But I'm still fairly independent in what I do. But Archery Australia has recognised that they need support staff for certain people. And they've made arrangements for now Archery Australia staff to put on a support person. Because at international events, you can't have volunteers or non-organisational staff helping on the field. It's all got to be Archery Australia staff on the field or playing. Yeah. It's got to be organised by the organisation.
So when's your next event?
End of May.
End of May. And where's that?
Not long now.
That's Rome. Okay.
40 odd days away or something. So.
And so what do your days look like leading up to that event?
My typical training is for any time is I shoot 4 times a week. So Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I shoot for about 4 hours those days. And I'm shooting a sort of 400 to 450 arrows a week, which is not a lot for an archer at high performance level.
When you've only got one arm?
Well, that's the difference. So because I shoot with a mouth tab, so
yeah,
I bite on my string. I've got a little tab that I put on the string, I bite on it back here, and then I push out. And it being a 45-pound bow, the max that I can have in my division, or 20, 21 kilos or whatever it is. Each time I push out, it's 20 odd kilos. So it takes its toll on my teeth, but more so my neck, because you're trying to hold head back so it stays nice and still. So all the muscles in my neck, look at older pictures of me. Now I look like a bloody front rower because my neck's so. But yeah, it's 450 a week, thereabouts 400. And then I do gym. Unfortunately, it was on a Thursday, and what's today? I just bugger.
Shame.
And then I have 2 recovery days, which is a Tuesday and a Saturday. And I do the Saturday because that's a day off with Donna. And then Tuesday, you got to get stuff done. But I used to do 4 days shooting and then 2 days in the gym. I think I'm getting too old, and I was getting really worn out. So we're back to, now that the rehab phase is done on my shoulder, we're back to just maintaining. And the shooting is also, it's hard work. So it also builds the muscle. So we've gone back to the 1 day a week. And I'm supported by, I've got to give them a shout out, because the QAS, Queensland Academy of Sport, I've been with them for a little over a year or two now. And they have been absolutely phenomenal in their support of me. From when I got the injury, through the injury, and till now, absolutely amazing. And the QAS themselves are developing. They've just opened up a new para sport hub, so people with disabilities can go along, see if they're suited to a sport, get some grassroots stuff happening, and then pushed on to the next level if they get to that way. We've actually also, for the first time now, got a para archery hub at the QAS, which is just brilliant, because between you, me, and anybody else who's listening, New South Wales and Victoria just closed down there. So
really?
Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't know the politics behind it, but for me, I think it's awesome that we've got one, that QAS is investing in that, because we need more people with disabilities shooting arrows so that we get better at it. We, as in Australia.
Yep.
Also, I want more competition in track, because that pushes me to be better. But we want more people. And at the moment, we've got a few newbies coming on the scene with some potential, which is really good. My coach, Sarah Fuller, we work out of Mount Petrie Bowman at Belmont, and also we spend a bit of time over at Centenary Archery Club. But Sarah is an incredible coach, amazing ability to know how to shoot, but also then adjust that shooting style to the ability of the person. And her and I, we work together. We've been together for a while now, and we work really well together. We'll have our moments, but we respect each other immensely. And I like to do an engineering type fiddling, and she does the technical shooting. She will make you hit the target. I can try and help in getting you to hold the bow and maybe shoot the bow. That's where I like my stuff to come in. And a great example is a young lady from Port Macquarie who's just started shooting. And when she first came up, she's a quad. When she first came up, we weren't even sure she was going to be able to lift the bow. By day 2, we'd managed, I'd spent some time thinking about what can we do to get her to lift the bow, hold the bow, keep it steady, etc. Sarah did her magic, and by day 2 of her shooting, we had her at 10 meters hitting gold independently, loading, shooting, all that sort of stuff. And I tell you what, it nearly brought a bloody tear to my eye to see it when she was going, hitting these goals and just kept going and going and going. It was like, that's phenomenal. That was like
You got
day
to be
one. I think
so proud of herself.
she's a beast. She'll be great.
We need to start wrapping up, Chris, but I've got something I want to go back to, and I'm not sure how you're going to answer it, but you talked about you being stubborn, and you are stubborn.
Yeah.
But you also talked about at what point do you ask for help? Because there's so much help out there if you do ask, but being stubborn and wanting to be independent, does that become easier as you get older? Or is it something that...
It hasn't for me. So the people around me who know me will just help if they need to. And they know that I don't ask. And that's my personality, that's my character. It certainly hasn't got easier for me to ask. Look, I might have to change that a little bit. It's maybe got a smidgen easier, but it's not a lot. Ever since the shoulder surgery, I've probably learned now I need to have a support person a bit more frequently when I go training. I used to do it by myself, push down 50 meters, pull the arrows out, come back, shoot, that sort of stuff. I now have a support person 3 times a week who comes with me and does all the heavy lifting.
Because from my perspective, like I don't see you every day, and I would want to help you, but I also wouldn't want to stand on your independence. Yeah. So if you were talking to someone as an outsider, what would you say to them about asking people for help or offering help?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, what people do to me, for me, whatever, is they'll just say, "Do you need a hand with that, mate?" I'll be like, "No, thanks very much, appreciate it, but no, I'm fine." So just ask. If you're comfortable to help somebody, then ask, because your comfort in helping somebody with a disability comes through in the way you ask the question. Some people are a little bit, oh, careful, I might catch disability or whatever. And that hesitancy will come through in the way they ask, and it might be better to.
And so therefore, would you say no because of their hesitancy?
I would say don't bother asking, because it would be too awkward for them.
Yeah.
So it's not about me, it's about them. People who are comfortable with disability and around disability, just say, "You need a hand?" No. Don't take it personally if somebody says no. And also, as the person being asked, don't be a dick and say, "I'm fine, I don't need that." I've heard those stories before. Appreciate the fact that somebody has thought that if I can help you and make life a bit easier, that's a nice thing. So if you need help, accept it. And I have a couple of times. Some guys, construction guys at a petrol station that seem struggling with put in the wheelchair. "You need a hand, bro." It's like, "Yeah, okay, thanks. That'd be great. Cheers." And cheers in. But if you don't need it, I appreciate the offer. Thanks very much. But no, I'm cool.
And that's what it's all about. Just being kind.
Yeah. Being honest, kind, and appreciative of somebody wanting to help you make your life a little bit easier.
But it's from all sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just yours.
Yeah.
What are your hopes for the future, Chris, in terms of disability, the community? What are your hopes?
The disability is on it. There's parity between disability and able-bodied. Not only in sport, but at the moment, definitely sport, but also work and participation within society, community, world, whatever. There is still a gap that needs to be filled. It needs to be fixed. Parity in pay. We hear a lot about the pay gap between men and women. The next thing we need to also talk about with that is the pay gap and the disparity in jobs, quality of jobs, etc., between able-bodied and disabled. We need to look at opportunities rather than people saying, "Oh no, you can't do that." But we'll give it a go first.
I don't know if you've noticed our logo, but
Yeah.
originally it was navigating disability.
Yeah.
And after doing quite a few of these, we realized that, you know what? It's not actually about disability. Everybody has ability.
Yeah.
And let's focus on what that is
Yeah.
and how, because everyone can do everything.
Yeah.
Within reason, what that they want to do.
Everybody's got limitations.
Yeah.
Whether you're upright or in a chair or laid out flat in a bed, everybody has a limitation. It's just the way life is, and people are like that. So work with it, accept it, deal with it.
Absolutely. Chris, I can't thank you enough for having a chat to us today. It's been really lovely.
It's been great to see you.
Lovely to see you. We will put all of your socials so people can follow you there and reach out if they feel the need.
Yeah, if there's anybody watching and they're in the Brisbane area and you want to try archery, get in touch.
Get in touch, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, mate.
See you, Chris.
Bye.
Bye.